Hi, my name is Mani Alikhani and I am Dean and Professor at CTOR Academy, and I'd like to welcome you to another session of CTOR channel. As part of the biology in orthodontics and craniofacial orthopedics, we are going to continue the discussion on effect of static forces on cortical bone. If you remember from the previous section, we described what happened if we apply an expander that produces a static force on alveolar bone. What happened to the cortical bone? Last time, we demonstrated in response to these static forces, the cortical bone goes through the resorption, and this was a trauma-based phenomenon with the appearance of osteoclasts early in the event. Is that the end of the story? Let's look at these rats for a longer time. If we look at the macro CT of images of the alveolar bone of this rat, we notice that the cortical bone in buccal plate of these animals went through significant resorption. It's almost disappeared. Does that mean the expander caused cortical bone resorption and damage to the patient? What happened if we follow this rat for another month without application of further static forces? We notice after 56 days, cortical bone again appear in alveolar bone. To further investigate this phenomenon, we studied the expression of bone forming genes. The expression of these genes appears with the delay after appearance of the osteoclastic genes and cause a start of anabolic phase and appearance of cortical bone, as we can see in the macro CT. Let's ask another question. Is the magnitude of the bone formation related to the magnitude of osteoclast activity? If we evaluate the alveolar bone of these animals, we notice in the area that the amount of the stress was higher, the amount of the trauma on periosteum was higher, the number of the osteoclasts was higher, the amount of the bone formation was also higher. Does that mean that osteoclast number affects the magnitude of bone formation? Let's do an experiment. We keep our expander that produces a static force, therefore is traumatizing the periosteum. And in addition to that, we artificially go and traumatize the periosteum by application of microtrauma. What happened to the number of osteoclasts? First, before we look at the number of osteoclasts, see if this microtrauma to the periosteum caused increase in the magnitude of inflammatory gene expression. Yes, the expression of the inflammatory markers and even the osteoclast markers increased significantly. This followed with the appearance of the more osteoclast in the early stage of expansion. Now, let's look if this had any effect on the magnitude of the bone formation. We studied these animals after 56 days. We notice on the animals that received microtrauma on periosteum and the number of osteoclasts went up, the magnitude of the bone formation was significantly higher. This is the first time that this phenomenon has been observed, that by activating or stimulating the periosteum, we were able to increase the magnitude of the bone formation cortical bone. So it was a very exciting news for us. If you look at the fluorescent microscopy, clearly you can see the layers of the bone formation that appear in periosteum. To further make sure that this relationship between osteoclast activation and bone formation exists, we decided to do a series of experiments when only one side was stimulated with the microtrauma to the periosteum, while the other side has not been exposed to microtrauma, but both sides have been exposed to a static force applied by expander. What do you expect to see in regard to the bone formation? Yes, you're right. In the side that we had microtrauma to the periosteum, the magnitude of the bone formation was higher, much higher than the side that did not receive microtrauma. This is a very exciting news that can have a significant clinical application. Therefore, in part 3 of this series, we will focusing on understanding the clinical application of these experimental studies. I hope you enjoyed this session of CTOR channel. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe, and please don't forget to press the like button.